Shadow of Mordor is a 2014 game released for the 7th and 8th generation of consoles. The game is based on the widely popular J.R.R. Tolkien Lord of the Rings book series. The game is known for its Nemesis system and Arkham-style combat. Ran through the game for the first time in 2026, 12 years after the game first released, just to complete a game in my backlog and to see how well it's held up over time. I originally played this game, I was like 13, and I just could not get into it. I thought it was kind of boring, but I decided, you know what, let's give it another run through. The story of this game revolves around your character, Talion, and his ghostly friend Celebrimbor. After your character gets killed, the two fuse together, which makes your character unable to die. This fuse embarks the two of the characters on a journey of revenge, as the Black Hand of Sauron has wronged them both, to put it lightly. This game does have some fairly good moments and mechanics built into it, many of which revolve around the powers given to you through the fusel with Celebrimbor. These include things such as removing fall damage, which is a big pet peeve of mine, um, slow motion bow and arrow shots, and even teleportation. Through Celebrimbor, you also gain the ability to see into Uruk's mines and gather intel on the captains of Sauron's army. Later in the game, you also gain the ability to mind control some of these captains and the regular Uruks, which I think is one of the coolest parts of the game, being able to control members of this army and make them do your bidding. It has some very unique mechanics and allow some of the unfair fights to shift more in your advantage. Another great feature, which can't go without talking about, is the Nemesis system. This system is amazing, but it has one major flaw, the fact that Warner Brothers decided to patent it, which I think sucks. This is a completely revolutionary mechanic for 2014. It allowed regular enemies to ascend ranks of Sauron's army, remember you, and like if they kill you, they rank up, you can help them rank up. It's a whole system. And along with this, their power and skills grow. So say one time you fight a guy, he's immune to fire. Next time you fight him after he kills you once, he's immune to stealth attacks and fire. His abilities compound and he gets stronger and stronger. They will also remember their last encounter with you. So if they killed you, if you ran away, sometimes they can even cheat death and come back and kill you. And they remember how you killed him. Um, there's even one guy, he was my nemesis, which I'm not sure if it's the same for everybody, but I got intel from him and he got scarred by the Celebrimbor powers. But as I stated before, Warner Brothers has patented this system. And I would just like to put a little thought experiment in your head of how amazing this system could have been. Imagine running around Fallout. A raider kills you. The next time you come back, he's named, and he remembers, like, oh yeah, I defeated a legendary Wastelander, and there's another one coming to kill me again. Now, of course, this doesn't make too much sense in this system and in the Fallout games, but another great example of this would be Skyrim. Say you fight a dragon and it runs away and you use a shout on it. Next time you fight this dragon, it might have that shout that you used on it. So it's able to gain powers through experiences that it's had with you. Now, this game has an unsatisfying difficulty curve. It actually starts out pretty difficult. You die kind of frequently. You, only in a couple hits it'll take you to get to half health, and there's no health regen, at least in the early game. And some enemies, like some of the captains mentioned before, have one-shot kills that'll instantly put you in a dying state. Now, after you get a couple abilities like the mind control and the teleportation, the game just becomes too easy. And the developers kind of saw that and they artificially increased the difficulty by adding in enemies that are just annoying to deal with. And even when you're fighting them, it's hard to tell which enemies are which. Now, if you look at a game like Batman, right, the enemies are very distinct from each other. There's the regular goons, and then there's the guys that have guns, and then there's the guys that are gigantic, you know. This game, they all kind of look the same, which is another pet peeve of mine that I'll be discussing later. But it's kind of hard to tell. And when you're in the middle of the fight and there's 50 enemies around you, you have 1 second to react to jumping over a shield enemy. So I found myself just when the fight first started, using that slow motion bow and arrow ability and just picking off the annoying enemies, which I felt kind of defeated some of the purpose of the game to give some variety in the combat. What's even more annoying is some of these captains, like I stated before, where they kill you in one shot. There's captains that have shields and you can't jump over them. So you have to find another way to take them out. But sometimes they're immune to range damage. So it's like just like a lot of times I just skip them. I would just find another way to kill them. But I don't feel like that's fun. Another thing that I disliked about this game is that it's just kind of bland. If you strip away the Lord of the Rings branding, you're left with just a kind of generic game. Tell me what this sounds like. Going up towers, collecting small items around the map, and uninteresting repetitive side events, and a short main story. The first games that you're going to think of are Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, because this was a common theme in games back in that time. But this game kind of has the bad parts about all of them. You know, one thing that I personally like in free roam games is clearing outposts. You know, if you look at Far Cry, there's a bunch of outposts around the map that you clear out, and you get some rewards for it, get some XP. This game doesn't really have that, which I didn't discover until I cleared through two waves of enemies at the first like outpost that I found, and they just kept coming back. I was like, really? Like this is what the game's like? And it doesn't have like a kind of satisfying upgrades either. Like if you look at Far Cry, which doesn't have a perfect upgrading system, there's still some things that you have to do without doing a bunch of quests. Like you have to go hunting, you have to do some other stuff. I find that kind of fun. And this game has stealth in it, kind of like Assassin's Creed 2, but it's just not engaging. Like, when I think of a good stealth game, I think of something like Dishonored or Metal Gear Solid, right? Where there's a bunch of different ways and a bunch of ways that you can evade enemies, and it's kind of hard to get past them sometimes. This game, you can run up to enemies and they just don't do anything. The design is just kind of safe and doesn't take a lot of risks, which I think kind of drags the game down. Now, of course, many people are huge fans of Lord of the Rings and can kind of see like how this is all cool and ties everything together. But if you really look at it, it's just bland. One of the worst parts about this game is the story. The story of this game just has no real impact to it. The characters kind of suck, the meaning of the story kind of sucks, and you don't get really attached to anybody. Let's take a closer look at the main arc of the story, which is this message of revenge. So Talion and Celebrimbor are both searching for revenge against the Black Hand and Sauron for obvious reasons. But if you take a look at it, you don't really have like a huge you don't have as much of a connection with the story as you would with other games. Take a look at a game like Ghost of Tsushima, another game about revenge. The game opens with a bunch of samurai dying, leaving the main character, Jin, by himself fighting off against this Mongol invasion, right? There's not a huge like connection to these characters that die, but it's such a mass event that you can't help but be like, wow, this character really went through a lot, right? Later on in the game, a very likable character is killed by the main enemy, which then pushes Jin to abandon his samurai values to fight as the Khan does. It kind of shows how Jin started off as this honorable soldier who saw a bunch of people die, to then when someone close to him dies, he completely changes. It creates a connection that makes the player want to fight for something. Now, if you compare it to this game, your wife and son die 20, 10 minutes into the game, and you don't have a connection to them. It's two characters, they die in front of you, and it's just like, okay, like that's sad, but like I don't have a connection to these characters, right? It doesn't make the player feel like fighting for as much. Now, another bad part about the story of this game is the side characters. I did not like any of these side characters besides the hunter guy. He was cool, but like look at Ratbag, okay? Ratbag, I I can't tell you what kind of character he's supposed to be. Is he supposed to be a comic relief character, a look into the mindset of the Uruk, or is he supposed to be like a little brother? It's kind of like hard to determine what he's supposed to be because they don't flesh him out any, especially because he's only seen in the first half of the game. Now, the second half of the game has better side characters, like Torvin, the dwarf hunter who you help fight the giant beast, and Lothariel. She is a leader of the rebellion in the second part of the game. However, like other characters in the game, the relationship between Talion and Lothariel is very shallow. She's kind of like your love interest. She's not really, because the character still is after his wife, but it's kind of framed like that, at least in my opinion. And your character just kind of feels disconnected from her. Like there's a moment in the game where she's in a bunch of danger, you get to escort her out, and it's just kind of like, okay, like who cares? And then in the very next scene, your character just leaves her. Like he's not even like, oh, should I stay or should I go? What should I do here? He's just like, okay, I'll see you later. Finally, one of the worst parts about this game is the final two bosses. I could talk about how bad these were for a really long time. The second to last boss, it's just 3 stealth attacks. It's not hard stealth. It's very, oh, you climb on top of a tower and then you stealth attack from above. That's bad. That's really, really bad for any game to ever do. The final boss is even worse. It's 5 quick time events. Now, I'm guessing there. I didn't count how many, but I was like, seriously? What game is like, yep, we're going to finish off this campaign with quick time events? That's how we're going to keep people wanting to play this game and play the second one. Now, another thing that I did not really like about this game is the graphics. The first half of this game looks bad. It's just bad looking. It's gray and brown, and oh yeah, there's some fires here and there, but it's just like boring to look at. It doesn't keep me engaged at all. Like, if you run around at night, especially if it rains, you're walking around in some gray verse. Now, I will say this because I don't want to be crucified in the comments here. A lot of games at the time did this too. Okay, look at Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs was notorious for being a great game, but come on, Watch Dogs had the cool like lines going around from like when you're hacking, but you would expect a fantasy game to have a little bit more color, at least my opinion. Because like look at a game like GTA 5. That game was not known for being gray. It was known for being colorful and having a very diverse environment. Well, this game just felt kind of empty at points. Now, the second start of the part of the game had a way better looking section. There's green around. Yeah, there's the mud and dirt and stuff, but the green kind of helps keep it a little bit more balanced. And even like the outposts felt a little bit nicer looking. There were color buildings and all that stuff. I personally think that the second part of the game should have been the first part of the game, so it keeps the players a little bit more engaged in the environment. And then after the character defeats the first boss, the hammer, then they get taken to the gray wasteland where it's a little bit more like, oh wow, I need to get things done or everything's going to end up like this. So where does this leave Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor in 2026? Honestly, this game has not aged as well as people say it has. You can see why it was such a big deal when it came out with the Nemesis system and the combat. It is a cool piece of technology, and other games should have been allowed to use this. But outside of that, this game is just bad. The world is ugly, the story's forgettable, and the combat, it's cool when you first start playing, and then it loses its spark when it gets to the annoying guys. It feels more like a tech demo. And you can kind of see that with Shadow of War, how that's a much more refined game. Now, sure, it came out 3 years later in 2017, but still. Overall, I give Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor a 65 out of 100. Just my opinion. You can tell me if you disagree or not in the comments, but that's what I think. Now, I did want to give a quick introduction to my game series as a whole. I am Maddie with MingoManiacs, and this is an introduction into my series. I'm playing through all my games based on the year that I think that they take place in. Now, I played through a couple games already, which I will go through right here. And my next game is Slay the Spire. Playing it on PC. Now, I've seen some things. There's some robots in this game. I'm still placing it at this year right here, just because, partially because I want to play it right now, and also because there's some fantasy elements that go into other games where there's like robots and all that stuff too. I'm kind of playing it like a advanced medieval kind of thing. Once again, this is MingoManiacs. You can follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. We even got an X and got a Twitter up now too. Feel free to give us a follow over there. Um, this next video is going to be out when I finish the game. I haven't even started it yet. I'm making this video first, so everything's fresh in my mind. Starting that one, you guys can expect that video. I don't know how long that game's going to take me. Might take me a month. Might take me 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. I don't know. But tune in next time. See you guys later.